What's going on, people? Welcome to the YouTube video. Today I'm going to be watching Do the Police Actually Keep Us Safe by Vice. Now, I'm a police officer from the UK and I react to police related content. However, I'm going to look at this with an open mind and try and give an unbiased opinion, which is going to be hard because I am going to advocate for the police because I'm a police officer. But I'll try and watch this with an open mind. Without any further ado, let's get straight to the video.
For a lot of people, this is the model police officer.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Luke, acting like a young'un.
Brave, calm, fair. It's an image people have had ingrained in their brains for a long time. But for many Americans, it's been totally upended in the last decades.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out. Let go.
The idea that the police are the thin blue line separating civilization from anarchy, that's police propaganda that is cultivated by police themselves, right? But then it gets embedded over generations into sort of just absorbed as a kind of settled logic when it comes to how...
I hate to stop it so early onto the video. For this guy to say it's police propaganda, because the police are going out there saying that the police are, we're the ones who protect you, you need to rely on us. I would argue that's simply not the case. You look at a lot of countries which don't have a police force, it ends in anarchy. You hear stories about over the Mexican border from America, even places inside the UK where there's less policing, crime rises. You look at policies in New York where they put police officers on every corner and crime went down. Police officers stopping crime, I think we definitely do that. It's just obvious. People don't want to commit crime in front of a police officer. Kind of goes without saying.
We perceive public safety in this country. Everybody thinks that they're so much less safe than they really are.
And that fear has been used to justify skyrocketing police budgets. But a bigger, heavier armed police force doesn't automatically lead to safer streets.
Although people today have a misperception that police were founded in the United States in order to, quote unquote, keep us safe, when police forces are implemented in various sections of the country, they're primarily concerned with racial control, ethnic control, and class control. Chicago's police department, when it's founded in 1853, because city elites are really concerned about the behavior of European immigrants, so in particular the drinking habit of German and Irish immigrants, and they found and actually fund the police department in order to control.
So even if you look at that image there, I'm just going to explain why I disagree with this individual. Look at the police hats, what they're wearing. They're wearing a police hat which would be typically worn or which is made in a similar style as the peelers, as the police officers which come from the UK. Robert Peel is the founder of modern policing in the UK, which the concept spread around the world, and it came from an idea of the police being the people and the people being the police. So basically, when you go back in the day, like in many countries, poorer nations now, individuals would have to go out onto the street and have to watch their communities themselves. What Robert Peel thought is we need people who are paid, robust individuals who care about their communities, who live in their communities, to go out there and to protect people so people can work their normal lives. You just got to imagine you do your 9 to 5, but then also, while you're doing that, no one's looking after any of your stuff. Crime is going to skyrocket. So the reason why America brought in policing was modelled against the English policing system, which they adapted their own rules, some really good rules, some really bad rules, because we're all learning and we're all trying to bring it forward to the next level. Obviously, there's going to be class control and racism. Obviously, police are going to be in areas, when it comes to class control, they're going to be in areas where there's more crime. So it's going to seem like they're just picking on poor people. And that's never been the aim. The original aim of the police was the idea that the police are the people and the people are the police. We're from the same community. Things go downhill where police don't reflect their communities when it comes to morals and principles.
These, quote unquote, undesirable people, a lot of southern cities owe the origins of their police departments to slave patrols and to the fact that police departments sort of emerged from the logics and in some ways even the very institutions themselves that were implemented in order to surveil and track and arrest people for the crime of stealing themselves to freedom.
With the idea that policing in some southern states came from slavery, I'd have to look further into it. Potentially that may be true. However, that's not answering the question of, do the police actually keep us safe today? Ask yourself this simple question. If you have a group of individuals who are getting paid to 24/7 patrol with weapons to stop crime from happening, or they will be punished, or they should be punished, being a criminal, would you want to be walking around committing crimes with the threat of you being dragged away from your family and put in a cage, or potentially shot if you're committing an offence which requires that? What's going to stop you from committing a crime? These serial killers. Who caught these serial killers? Majority of these serial killers aren't caught by members of the public. Majority of these serial killers are caught by the police. The same way majority of these major fires are put out by the fire service. The same way that a lot of these wars are fought by armies. It turns out that modern groups of professionals, or supposed professionals, do their job better than other groups of people. And that's the reason why we're there. Every country in the world didn't stumble across policing in a similar fashion by accident. They stumbled across it because it actually works in protecting people.
Policing has changed since the times of slave patrols, but statistics show it's still not very effective in actually stopping crimes. And people in communities with a lot of crime know it.
Police be tripping now? Yeah, this is America.
Most violent and property crimes never get reported to police, and most that are reported never get solved. A 2020 study found that America's police departments spend only 4% of their time handling violent crime.
So, if officers are spending 4% of their crime tackling violent crime, that means that they're spending 96% of their time doing something else. And it seems like these guys are trying to suggest that officers are spending the rest of their time doing nothing and we don't care about violent crime. There's other types of crime. There's domestic arguments, what we have to turn out to. There's traffic offences. There's safe and well checks on your elderly relatives who are falling over inside the bath. There's mental health jobs that we go to. And if you look at it, majority of these jobs, these millions of interactions throughout the USA and throughout the UK, end without any serious incident and everyone can walk away at the end of the day. So the fact that we don't spend all of our time on violent crime, it means that you live in a relatively safe country where there's not so much violent crime. If you put me inside Mexico, or if you put me inside, sorry, not all of Mexico, not all of Mexico's the same, a really violent part of Mexico, a really violent part of Jamaica, or a really violent part of Ireland or London, I'll be focusing on violent crime a lot more. It's just because you're in a safer country that police can cut down their time on that specific issue.
But those stats haven't convinced the vast majority of Americans that defund the police is a good idea. As of March, only 18% of people support it. The same survey found 67% of Democrats do support redistributing portions of police budgets to social programs.
I think the reason why only 18% of people support actually defunding the police is, 18% of people support abolishing and completely dismantling and getting rid of the police is because people know it's stupid. That's dumb. It's almost like getting a child and saying, what we're going to do is, this parent abused their child, so we're going to abolish discipline. It's pretty dumb, right? Because that child's going to grow up to be an idiot. And you're going to grow up to be a nation of idiots if there's no one to keep individuals in line. And if you're going to get people, they better be professionals who are well trained. So if you're going to be reallocating police funding, please put that funding back into training these officers to be better individuals and better trained. We don't want people mixing up tasers for firearms. We don't want officers losing their heads. We want officers who are sound of mind, who have got the skills to deal with people without resorting to violence. And that comes through training, and training comes through cost.
Compared with only 16% of Republicans.
A world without police seems unimaginable to a lot of people right now, but for the most part, the places where each of us lives, if we live in the United States, has existed at some point in time without a formalized police department.
And people have been arguing to get rid of the police since policing began in America. Civil rights activists and thinkers like Ida B. Wells, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Angela Davis called out racism within the institution and imagined some potential solutions that have now entered the mainstream conversation.
Are you for defunding the police?
How are you defining defund the police?
So, Edward, what exactly does defund?
So, the three individuals who they showed there, three black individuals, in a time where a country was more racist, where each, not just the police officers, remember the police are a reflection of the community. the more racist, the more homophobic, the more angry, the more kind, whatever it may be, the less violent a community, the police will be less violent on average. You look at countries in the Netherlands, you look at the UK when it comes to gun violence, we have less guns, so we shoot less suspects. So showing these black individuals as people who stood up against the police, they probably stood against the police. If what they're saying is correct, I need to research it. I don't know if Vice is telling me the truth, but they probably stood up against the police because the police back then they probably would argue police persecuted them because they were black and the police were racist. That's because society was like that back then. Back in the day, people were racist, a lot more racist than they are nowadays. Today, some people are still racist, so some police officers will be racist. So by saying people stood against policing since police first appeared, that's not true. Policing has always existed, but now we have, as I said, formalised police, where it's our job to do it, where we're meant to be professionals. And if you disagree with police officers being professionals, go on the internet and search mob justice. Go and search that. That's what unprofessional policing looks like. That looks like a stoning. That looks like someone being beaten to death with sticks. That looks like someone being whipped by the community. That looks like someone being stabbed or shot. That's what happens in these countries where there aren't police. So you can decide what you think is better. Professional policing, if it's done properly and we pick the right people who care about protecting not just our victims, but even trying to protect our suspects to the best of our ability, or do we want mob justice where we just beat the crap out of someone because they need to loaf of bread?
The police mean.
Yeah, defunding the police, I think, is taking the funding away and redistributing it to other sources that could be better used to improve communities. Police as they exist, right now, they bundle a lot of services, they bundle a lot of roles that don't need to belong to an armed group of people who take up a lot of a city and locale's resources.
How would that work practically speaking? So if something were happening violent to me, or I was witnessing something violent, or someone asked for help, I call 911, what happens from there?
Well, that's why I think defunding the police has to be interlocked with the idea of abolition, right? And, re-examining how we think about crime. We want to get at the roots of crime. If you're going to roll back police services,
unless I misheard him, I believe this gentleman said that the idea of defunding the police needs to be intertwined or something with the idea of abolishing the police. I would argue, if you want to have a sensible conversation, abolishing the police needs to completely stay out of your mouth, because it doesn't make sense. Getting rid of the police completely doesn't make sense. You only have to think for about 5 seconds or do a bit of research. You realise that removing the police isn't going to fix any issues. Relocating the funds, that can be a conversation. I would argue that more needs to go to training and picking people. Like, why do we not have more people who are, let's say, youth workers, let's say nurses, let's say people who actually, teachers who care about individuals? Why don't we try our best to transition individuals like that into the police force rather than shut it all down? Because we need it. We need it. We want community leaders in the police, not just to get rid of it.
Have to expand massively your investment into the communities, and you can't do one or the other, right? It also wouldn't make sense for us to massively expand social services but keep militarized forces rolling through communities. What good is it to have social welfare programs if you're also holding a bat just around the corner?
Yeah, all right. He said, what's the point in offering good, nice things like social services if you can have a bat around the corner? I would argue that part of modern society and society in general, it's always been this way. We're really, really stupid. Our animal brain tells us, here's something good, we can have that. And if we do something wrong, there needs to be some sort of threat to keep us in line. That's just how it is. My threat when I go to work is my body cam has to stay on when I turn up to a job. If someone calls me the wrong name or spits in my face, if I take it too far, the threat is I'll lose my job. Has there been times where I think I could really do with kicking this person in the head? I'm not even a violent person, but when someone spits in your face and calls you every name under the sun, sometimes you get there. Do you know what keeps me in my place? I've got my partner I want to look after. I've got my kids I want to look after. I don't want to be in prison. That's not what's for me. So yes, people do need things to keep them in line. From the president to the 12-year-old who's in primary school, everyone needs as he calls it, the bat around the corner. This is reality. Wake up. You can't just have sunflowers and rainbows and unicorns. Wake up.
We use the word abolition, which is to say we need to abolish the concept of police as we know it and then start over effectively.
Abolition of police is interlocked with ideas of how we think of punishment and how we think of crime. If we are really concerned about, for example, drug offenses, the solution is not so much to just throw people in jail or to punish people or to have cops show up to the house of people who are doing drugs, but to figure out, okay, what about the drug offenses are really the problem? Is it addiction?
How is it possible to come to some common ground between people who think, hey, the police are effectively overall a force of bad, and other people who are like, police are good, we need them?
That argument in cases is going to have to always be made. I mean, Jim Crow was pretty popular at the time that it was, widespread, and that system of racial terrorism, everyone today would say that's obviously an odious thing that shouldn't have happened, and yet, it had, pretty wide support among Americans. I think that a lot of ideas in the moment seem hegemonic and seem to make sense, and so this is something.
That poster saying support communities and not cops. Police officers are part of your community. We make up your community. We come from your community. The police is a reflection of the community. That's it. You look at countries around the world where there's more fraud and there's more corruption on average. The police officers are more corrupt there. Police officers are a reflection of the community. If you want better police, let's improve the community and our ideas as a whole. You can't just get rid of us. You need us, and we are part of you. We're not going anywhere, sadly. You can call us whatever you want to, but there'll always be individuals who need to stop those monsters who are lurking in the dark from coming and getting you. That's just the facts. Some of you guys can do it yourselves, and I commend you if you can do that. Other people aren't like that. There's people with disabilities. There's people who need to go and work. There's young children. And there are people who literally want to do horrible things to our family members. There needs to be someone to stop them.
That is not it is not the final form of how we can handle conflict or crime or, make sure that communities are safe. And until we, re-examine those, then we're gonna just constantly be thinking of how do we humanely punish people.
Right, so that's the end of it. The question that this video started off with is, do the police actually keep us safe? I didn't see, other than that chart on violent crime, imagine every single year the UK government, the US government, they bring out statistics on policing. There's so much data out there. Vice are a company which have dozens of people who could be doing research, and they haven't even answered the question of, do the police actually keep us safe? They haven't even answered the question. They spent 6 minutes speaking about some things which are historic, which was good, that can be factual. They showed us 1-2 charts. The rest of that was individuals' opinions, and that was it. That's meant to convince us. If you're going to pose a question, at least give us evidence so we can come to our own answer. Tell me what you guys think. I don't think this was the best video for actually having a debate on, do the police keep us safe? I think it's a good video to start a conversation. But hopefully we can continue that conversation in the comments. Tell me what you guys think. I'll be back with another one soon. Peace.